Transitioning Education in Africa, External Education Providers, Emergencies, and Authoritarian Structures by Gia Cromer. Introduction. My driver was standing with a small boy in an area where the beach sand transitioned to small patches of tall grass. As I walked up to Mr. Alimami Sese, I smiled and asked, "And who is this young man?" Alimami and the boy smiled. Alimami put his hand on the boy's shoulder and gave his name. I don't remember his name, most likely because of what happened next. I asked, "Why isn't he in school?" Both of their sunny smiles faded, and Alimami's proud hand on the boy's shoulder became a protective embrace as he pulled the small boy tight to his leg. Neither of them spoke. They just looked at the sand and grass near their feet. What did I say? I know it was something bad. I didn't mean to hurt their feelings. I felt them being sad. But I didn't know what I had done. In this place of such idyllic beauty, with the nearly white sand beach and soft azure water over their left shoulders and the verdant, lumpy green of forested hills over their right shoulders, I had caused pain. My heart sank. It was my turn to look at the sand contending with the grass. "I'm sorry," I said softly. I turned and walked back to the car. In the following months and even years, I learned why my question caused pain. The small boy wanted to go to school, as did most children in Sierra Leone. But going to school, even before the wars, was complicated. After the wars, for many it became impossible. Alimami, who was my age, had wanted to go to school when he was young. But he was not from a rich family. Then he had a family of his own. Then the wars came. After the wars, the schooling was just for children. After the wars, modern non-governmental organizations replaced missionaries from another era and outnumbered Peace Corps volunteers, while the government focused on restarting or resurrecting the country as a whole. International consciousness and guilt flowed grants, aid, and assistance programs to most government and national sectors, providing services to people and relief to government. Massive amounts of money and support were generated, development concepts and programs were initiated, and the phrase capacity building was a mainstay in the lexicons of government officials, program administrators, and even civil society leaders. But in that moment on the beach, I simply stood there. Nearly 6 years after the end of the last battles, a few miles from the very functional United Nations peacekeeping operations offices at the Mamiyoko Hotel, which was complete with commissary, another few miles from the International Criminal Court facilities housed on a compound complete with constructed buildings and tarred roads. I stood in the sand and grass with Alimami protecting the small boy from the pain of not being in a finished school provided either by outsiders or his own government. The wars had literally devastated the country, people and buildings. Rebuilding to the level of reinstating Fourabay College's glory and reconnecting Sierra Leone Grammar School to its traditional prominence would take time. Over the following months, as I worked around the country as an embassy official, I began to wonder how much time it would take, how the work would be done, and who would do it. After I left Sierra Leone, I began to learn about post-conflict situations and nation-building specific to Africa. The focus of my academic research became rebuilding education systems, and over time, I came to realize a more accurate concept was building education systems and the importance of who built them. My experience let me know the construction of education systems was also the construction of social norms and national identity. My logic told me these things that are built and owned are often best kept by those who built and owned them. And my values helped me first to focus on the needs of the most vulnerable, and then to examine the presence of integrity in the words and deeds of the aid community. Applying this confluence to education systems in African countries, the research turned to questions about who is building education systems after violent conflict for the benefit of refugees and the displaced. A surprisingly small body of either academic literature, practitioner reports, or government documents were available. Those found focused on individual schools and did not address educational needs from the national policy level, except to seemingly parrot international education phrases such as capacity building, sustainability, and education for all, without benefit of contextual specificity or ownership of education processes and systems by the national government as the long-range service provider. Therefore, the following study addresses how education in emergency contexts for some of the most vulnerable people in Africa transitions from the current education provision mechanisms in the non-governmental organization and international financial institution sphere to being provided by national governments of the education service recipients. The first chapter provides an overview of the current context by specifying the breadth of the issue, what entities are currently involved, and discussing their stated and actual roles. Chapter 2 reaches back through the history of education in Africa in the pre-colonial, colonial, and immediately post-colonial eras to understand the foundations on which the pre-conflict and pre-emergency education systems rest. These facts also detail the impact of external financial forces on the national education philosophies in place today. Chapter 3 provides not only the raw data from an original two-stage qualitative study, but intersperses the educational history with the current data points to address additional issues of continuity and introduce the difficulties of deviation from that continuity. Next, Chapter 4 addresses both national government and external education provider changes that will reorient the current perspectives of dominant parties while supporting the actual implementation of educational policies to increase national capability, encourage long-term ownership and responsibility, and begin to manifest a contextually appropriate education for all. The final chapter, number 5, is the prescription for change. I hope you will come with me and stay with me on this journey through one perspective of the transition of education. As always, your continual comments and feedback are welcome by email using the address gia@genoneducation.com or by message text on phone number +44 7506 867 257.